I remember, before COVID, going to, driving through Detroit to Cedar Point, and when you go to Cedar Point, you pass the EV location, and it's a huge warehouse with a huge yard.
Oh, the yard would be full,
right? And now it's empty, and it's like, how after 4 years have they not recouped into doing this? And the flip side is that lowering stock to raise cost. All right, guys, so in this video, I want to go through some really high-level stuff that we were talking about yesterday with industry leaders and through a Zoom. So these are some of the biggest roofing company CEOs in the country. I mean, some of these guys do over 300 million, and we had the opportunity to be on a Zoom with them and talk about some high-level topics. One of the topics that came up was, materials, material pricing, as far as like future pricing, not how much we're paying for cost, but like where the market's going. And then allocation, how allocation is affecting some of these roofing companies, and then the insight in of how they're getting around some of these allocation issues. Tyler's with me. He comes from the supplier background. He worked at the supplier and supplied Paramount before he came here. So he knows a lot more about this than I do. I know from my perspective, but he kind of knows it from both perspectives. So I thought it'd be a really good video for us both to kind of give our 2 cents in. So I don't understand this as well as you understand this, but the allocation thing, like what's going on? I know we just did a big multifamily. We ordered Certainty Max Steph Shenandoah, which is a Landmark Pro color in our area, and we waited months to get it.
Yeah, so just kind of want to get backtracked to the beginning of allocation, and it all started 2020 when the shutdowns first took place with COVID. And when they started to release roofing companies and distributors, because we were essential, right? If an elderly woman had a roof leak, what was she going to do if we were closed down? So they opened us back up, which means that they had to open up manufacturing again. So sometime during that process of opening up manufacturing again, there was a lull in manufacturing and ultimately supply. So I remember ordering my first truckload of Certainty Landmark Pro Weatherwood for my yard. And the acknowledgement came back, and typically it used to be if I ordered a truckload on a Thursday, I could potentially see it as early as the next day, for sure Monday, no questions asked. The supply greatly outnumbered demand. But after the shutdowns happened and after I ordered my first truck, the acknowledgement came back and it said, hey, you'll see your shingles in 6 months.
Wow.
Beg your pardon?
Right, yeah.
So it really opened my eyes to oh my God, I thought that the virus was going to be my only issue, and then keeping my guys busy was going to be my issue. But now my issue is, can I even get material to sell and supply these contractors? And that issue hasn't ultimately resolved itself over the course of the last 4 years since we dealt with coronavirus. We still deal with demand vastly outnumbering supply. And we're fortunate here. We're fortunate that we have the distribution partners that we have. We're fortunate that we have friends in the industry that have helped us out to supply us, especially in our last few years were major growth years, where we've been fortunate in that aspect, and not everybody's so fortunate.
Sure.
But like you just mentioned, that multifamily job, we had to push off for 2 months just to get Landmark Pro Shenandoah, and that's just not a common occurrence.
Like you said, especially for us, because we buy so much, we're so loyal to our suppliers that I would assume we get first pick, and they'll make sure that they can supply us if they can.
Well, we get first pick. Well, I don't want to say we necessarily get first pick, but they anticipate our volume.
Sure.
It's harder for a distribution company to anticipate a guy who comes in and has to pay per job, or, it's not, roofing is not his number one. Maybe he's a sider and does roofs here and there. It's hard to anticipate that kind of value. With what we do, and roofing is what we do. We are roofing. In our niche, it's easier for them to anticipate what we're trying to do and supply us. But that doesn't mean we haven't felt the burn. We've felt the burn several times. We've had Lester Sova's job. We got lucky that somebody had Northgate Pewter. That was just luck, and we just took everything they had.
Yeah. Pure
luck, and nobody else had anything. It made us have to be flexible with the companies that we deal with in distribution. It used to be, well, I'm stuck with ABC Supply, or I'm stuck with SRS or Gulf Eagle, or whoever it is. Those are my people. That's who I deal with. That's where I get everything. And now we have to be pliable and develop relationships where maybe we would have considered it before. And really, ultimately, I think that's been a good thing for us to open those relationships and maintain those relationships with different distribution partners.
Oh, for sure. Why is it the way it is? Why are we 4 years later? Why are we still dealing with this? Why are we struggling to get material?
Well, I'm not going to get into any conspiracy theories that I may have.
Sure, of course. And we'd like to know what you guys think too. Like, this is what this is all about, is this video. Again, we were at a really high level. We're going to share some insights that we've learned from that Zoom. So just hang tight. But as you're going through this, like, let us know like how you're dealing with it, what you're feeling, what shingles you can't get, and how you guys are navigating around the problem of not getting product. And we'll tell you how we are as well.
The only thing that I can come up with outside of any conspiracy theory that I may have is that since 2020, the demand has always been there. Even in the northern markets in Michigan, we've been able to work November, December, January, February, because the weather has allowed us to do so.
Sure.
So at no point has, and I'm speaking on CertainTeed's behalf specifically, has the Avery plant, which is what supplies Southeast Michigan, the majority of Southeast Michigan, been able to actually recover out of manufacturing and build a stockpile like they used to have to supply the industry, because it hasn't had a chance to correct itself. Your economists talk about the economy having to correct itself. Well,
Sure.
Manufacturing hasn't been able to correct itself, build a stockpile to essentially supply. You know, distribution guys used to do spring buys where maybe they buy a 10-month supply of material.
Right. I remember, right?
The yard would be so full you can barely drive a truck through it. They can't do that anymore because the shingle manufacturers don't have the supply.
So what is the allocation? So the people that don't,
Okay.
what is allocation? Why are we dealing with this?
Allocation is on the distribution side of things. Manufacturing is saying, okay, well, based on your previous year sales and usage, we are going to allot you X amount of trucks per color and per brand. So like Landmark Maury Black, Landmark Pro Maury Black, Northgate Maury Black, based on your 2023 usage. In 2024, we are going to be able to anticipate that we can manufacture this much and give you this much based on history.
So per company, so ABC in Detroit, Michigan, we'll just make an example, right? Last year they used 30 trucks of Landmark Black.
Yeah, and per month. So say in August they use 30 trucks of Landmark Black. Well, a certain team might come to them and say, okay, well, based on your usage, I'm going to allot you 50 trucks in total. Of that 50 trucks, I might only be able to give you 10 of them in Landmark Black. Well, the problem is their demand is like 30. There's a gap there. But that's all that they're able to manufacture. That's all that they're able to distribute. And they have many distribution partners that they have to make happy and make whole. So they have to.
So is it up to the suppliers of what stores go where, or is it per like supplier or like per area, right? Like if ABC in Detroit was getting 30 trucks, does ABC have the power to say, hey, I want 10 of those trucks to go to Cincinnati? Or is it allocated per area?
Yeah, so
like who's calling these shots?
I can only speak on behalf of the one that I worked for. And the one that I worked for, it was of that region, there was somebody in charge of that region, and they ultimately made the call of, okay, this store would get this much black, this store would get this much black of those trucks that they were allocated, right? And that's based on a lot of factors. One of them is orders in the system. So if you're a contractor out there, get your orders in the system ahead of time, because what they're going to look for is the demand up front. So if Paramount has 30 jobs of Landmark Black that I'm trying to get done, say right now it's October, and I'm trying to get these jobs done in November, well, I better have these orders in October so that when they have their trucks to be ordered, they can see what I'm trying to do in November, and they have time to get move that material over. If you're trying, there's just no way that you're gonna be able to get it used to be you could email me at 5 p.m. I'd have a first day out for you the next day. It's impossible.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I mean, I remember, before COVID, going to, driving through Detroit to Cedar Point, and when you go to Cedar Point, you pass the Avery location, and it's a huge warehouse with a huge yard.
And the yard would be full,
right? And now it's empty. And it's like, how after 4 years have they not recouped into doing this? And the flip side is that lowering stock to raise costs, right? And this is something else that they talked about is like, at what point is the roofs unaffordable to the people? Right?
Oh, well, I've been saying that forever. I've been saying when we were selling at $65 a square, I'm like, this is crazy. How do people even afford this? And $65, I'd give anything to be back at that price.
Yeah,
right?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So at what point, it's a good point. At what point is a roof the most expensive thing you ever buy for your home?
Right. And then you pile it on with the changing in insurance policies and insurance, whether they're covering the roofs or not. And if people finance a roof because they can't afford the price, and then it gets hit by damage or a storm, and then it's not insured, or it's only insured up to 50%, and now they're already financing a roof, now they have to finance another roof. At what point is it just like,
we can't do it anymore.
Can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, you have to look at. And then the other topic was navigating through this allocation process of getting material. And what one of the guys suggested, and a lot of the guys were actually doing this, is they're not brand specific anymore. Like, people used to be all Certainty, all Atlas, all Malarkey. I mean, another guy said he hasn't seen a Malarkey shingle in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And he does mega volume. Instead of going with manufacturers, they're just going with colors. So if you want black, it's like, hey, I have an Atlas black. If you want weathered wood, I have Certainty weathered wood. Like, they're not even being exclusive to the manufacturers anymore. They're getting certified by multiple manufacturers, so they can just sell the color that they need.
Well, allocation's forced the hand on that, ultimately.
Sure.
We have to continue to roof. I have to feed my family. Again, we've been fortunate with Certainty that we've been able to supply our customers, though we've had to push some jobs back, and owners have been understanding to a point.
Sure.
We haven't had to do very, very little of that. If I was in distribution today and somebody came in and said, I need a black shingle, well, I wouldn't just automatically say, I'm out of black landmarks and let it walk out the door.
Right.
I got black GAF back there. And I would be trained on how to sell any one of those brands.
Sure.
Or if it's Atlas, I got black Atlas out there. The cool thing about Atlas is XYZ compared to everything else, and
right.
Sell this customer a black shingle and ultimately obtain the sale.
Sure.
And roofers are having to do the same thing. Well, if the customer wants black, I can't get my mainstay, which would probably be a Landmark Pro or a Landmark, just because supply is so limited. I'm not going to allow the sale to walk away because of that. I'm going to have to push them into something else that maybe I normally wouldn't do.
Right. And then at that point, our manufacturers allowing, because I know we haven't really gone out after any other certifications besides all of our Certainty stuff, but are they allowing people to be 5-star or Master Elite or Platinum in multiple different brands? Because back in the day, you couldn't do that, right? They would try to stop it.
It was definitely frowned upon.
Right. They would definitely frowned upon.
If they're going to certify you, they would want you to essentially give them a bulk or a really good portion of the business that you're going for. But I think it's, they're having to be flexible too. You can see it in materials that they're accepting for extended warranties. They're accepting alternate materials because they can't make their ice and water fast enough to supply the demand. So we are now going to allow a different brand of ice and water, or a different brand of ridge vent or edge vent or anything to make this system go through.
Right. And I think they're kind of pinning themselves in the corner. Like you said, like they're doing it to themselves, but ultimately in the end, we're going to get used to working with multiple. We're not exclusive anymore, right? Or other companies are not exclusive the way they once were. Like, we were loyal to one manufacturer, we're loyal to one supplier. Now we're scattered. Like, we're calling, multiple places to get one certain shingle, or we're calling multiple places to get certified so we can sell their warranties. And it's like, hey, but in the end, it does affect our rebates and our internal stuff too, because that's gates and things like that we have to hit in order to get higher rebates.
It's really ultimately for us, having leverage for negotiation is almost out the window.
Yeah.
Because if we were to say, well, I'll just go buy something else elsewhere, they could call our bluff and say what and where.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't exist.
I know I talked to you about that before too. I was like, you know what? I was like, let's just go somewhere else. And it was like, well.
And my answer was what and where.
Yeah, what and where.
So it's not one brand specific. It's industry wide. And actually it's better now than it used to be, because it used to be drip edge. It used to be nails and shipping containers and nails, synthetic. I remember you were shooting a commercial when I was at distribution, and I couldn't get you a roll of roof runner to save my life.
Yeah.
I was literally out. I couldn't rob Peter to pay Paul. I couldn't do anything. Obviously I'm not manufacturing the stuff in the back lot.
Right.
And it was rather embarrassing for me, but at least now accessories are more accessible.
I think it's just like the trickle effect is like catching up, and everything in this industry is coming to like a head, like the insurance stuff is like, everybody's wondering what's going on. We just made a video talking about some of that high level stuff. And then the material allocation is a problem, right? Warranties is a problem. Everything's kind of like, prices are a problem. And then they're going to keep raising prices, financing. There's so many like outside issues. And I'm not saying we're not going to be able to navigate it or you're not going to be able to navigate it. Like whenever a dog's backed into a corner, they're going to find a way out. But it's like we're dealing with all this uncertainty at the same time, right? Along with the election and along with everything else that's going on in the political world and the economy. And it's like for me and you and Paramount, I mean, we've had our biggest year ever. Like we installed in beginning of July, the numbers we did all of last year. Like we killed it. Next year, we're trying to double again, you know, and go to new markets and stuff. But I don't know, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, man, we just learned how to do this. Like we're trying to like do this.
The only thing I can say is you can't be afraid of what could potentially happen in the future.
Sure.
Because I've been hearing for 3 years, every year this time of year, the next year it's gonna be a down year. It's gonna be a down year. It hasn't happened yet.
It has not.
I'm not saying it won't happen.
Sure.
But you can't go into a year expecting the worst.
Yeah.
You have to go in aggressive like always. I'm not saying chase your losses. Don't. If your numbers are sliding down, don't start doubling down on your costs to try to correct the issue. Don't. It's not.
Right. It's
treat it like the casino and don't chase your losses.
Right.
But just because you heard or you watched Fox Business and they said, well, there's going to be an economic downturn the next year, and you're just automatically going to assume that your roofing company is going to go backwards the next year. Don't do that.
Yeah. No.
Don't do that. Straightforward until the numbers tell you otherwise.
Yeah. So again, we'd like to hear how like some of the ways you guys are navigating the allocation. For us, I mean, we get our orders in early. We are very good about setting orders in as soon as we can, getting our sales guys to create the work orders and production and operations to put that stuff through. We're good about paying our suppliers always on time, every time. We never pay anything
That's
late.
huge.
And because of that, they favor us because they know they're going to get paid. We work closely with Certainteed, who is basically our manufacturer of choice, well, who is our manufacturer of choice, until we can't fulfill orders, right? Because again, we're going to have to work, but I'm hoping that's not going to happen. A few other guys on the side, like I said, they're using colors of, you know, they have a charcoal gray and they have a dual brown and whatever, you know, all these, they're using different manufacturers and finding out what colors are available readily and only offering the colors that are available versus the manufacturer. There's a lot of things that people are doing, you know, now, different things in their good, better, best, where you know that you can get, you know, Northgates are plentiful, pros may not be, so maybe you'll use a duration in your better.
Expand your network with distribution partners. Go out of your comfort zone. It's not, like I said earlier, it used to be find a home and you stick there, right?
Sure.
Well, allocation is forced your hand, and you know, there's a lot of good distribution partners out there. You're gonna find that, you know, I get treated really good at my mainstay, but having a secondary, even just letting them know, hey, you're a secondary, they're more than open to work with you. And there's a lot of great guys in this industry, a lot of guys that ultimately want to take care of all the customers that they have. And
absolutely,
we've had great success that way. And I've flat out told our distribution partners I've had to do this based on allocation, and none of them balk at it. They don't.
Right. Well,
they don't tell me shame on me. You shouldn't do that. It is what it is. You know, I don't have to tell you. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. And also connecting with your local reps for the manufacturers, you know, and asking them, hey, what's coming? What does it look like? And connecting with some others too to see what, you know, what everybody. I mean, as much as they'll tell you, I mean, as much information as you can gather. I mean, information is always the most powerful weapon. I think being prepared going into next year, understanding, you know, these few things that we're up against and how we're going to navigate them and coming up with a plan to execute versus waiting for something to happen and then kind of backpedaling and retraining your staff to adapt to the situation overnight versus, you know, start planning for this stuff to come. Because I anticipate, I don't know about you, but I anticipate because of the multiple hurricanes and the storms and everything that's happening in the South that there's going to be another increase in price come spring. And I think this is going to be a forever thing. Since I've been doing this, price increases, has there been a year without them?
I've never seen the price go down.
Right. I've never seen the price go down. And when it goes up, it used to be 2 to 6%, and sometimes it would hit you and sometimes it wouldn't. Now it's 6 to 10% every time it hits you. Yeah. Preparing stuff like that going into this winter, you know, if you're in the winter regions and selling, you know, not locking prices in unless you can buy up front, you know. The last thing we want to do is lock in a price for next June for a multifamily and then stuff goes up 10, 15%, and then there goes your bottom line.
We always put on the bottom of our contracts, especially for multifamily, material prices as of the date that I'm setting the quote. labor costs are locked in through the next year. If there is a material price increase, we have to increase our price. It'll be accompanied with a letter from the manufacturer stating so. So it's not like we're just making it up.
Yeah.
And that's the only amount that the price will change.
Yep. That's a good tip for you guys. We put that in our contracts, just letting them know labor's locked in, material's not. We'll send you verification from the suppliers if there's a change in price, because we don't want to be responsible for that. We've seen in COVID, plywood goes from $9 to $75 a sheet. Can you imagine doing a redeck that you had locked in the previous year? I mean, it wouldn't be worth it.
Why even show up?
Right. Wouldn't even be worth it. So, all right, man. Cool. Well, let us know what you think, what you guys think about the allocation and any of the other topics we brought up, and then we'll come back in and tackle them a little deeper next time. But that's it.